What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to do a video about group riding, how it works in the background. So everybody's kind of aware of formations and the generalization of riding in a group, but a lot of people get intimidated up front before they start riding, especially in large groups, about how it works. What am I supposed to be doing? People have a lot of questions, and there's really not that much information out there to answer that. So I figured I'd do a video about riding in a group, large groups, any group really. It doesn't make a difference. So before we get started, hit the subscribe button, please. Help a sucker out. Hit the notification icon. That will let you know when new videos are coming out. And stay tuned. All right, so let's start with getting ready for a group ride. Make sure your bike is in good operating condition. Check your tires, air pressure. You don't want to show up with bald tires. I've seen guys show up with half flat tires. Don't be that guy. Check your tire pressure. Did you know that as little as 3 pounds under inflation will have your brakes lose 20% of their stopping power? So a lot of stopping power comes from your tires, and if you're underinflated, even as little as 3 pounds, it really has a significant impact. And that was from one of the Dunlop engineers on a video I watched at Baxter's Garage, and he was on there saying, make sure your tire pressure is up to snuff, right? That's 40 in the back on a Harley touring bike and 36 up front. Next thing, check your oil. You don't want to break down on the ride because you didn't check your oil. The next thing is fill up your gas tank. Don't think because you got 3/4 of a gas tank that you don't have to fill up. 99% of the rides will start at some kind of a gas station or a place that is close to a gas station. Fill up your tank to the top. Make sure it's full. Again, you don't want to be the guy that's sitting there pointing at your gas tank while there's 10 other guys, 20 other guys that still have half a tank, right? Don't make the group pull over for you. You don't want to be that guy, trust me. You won't live that down. Don't monkey around with your radio. If you like listening to music while you're riding, get the playlist ready before you start. There's nothing worse than guys who are fiddling with the touchscreens or the thumb buttons. They're not concentrating on the road. You have a tendency to slow down when you're hunting and fishing. I'm going to leave the cell phones out of this. If you're texting and riding, you're absolutely nuts, and you shouldn't be riding in a group if you're doing that, because not only are you going to kill yourself one day, you're probably going to kill 5 guys with you. So don't be that guy. Leave the phone at home, put it in your pocket. If you need it for navigation, get the nav set up before you start the ride. Okay? It's really, really important. Use the thumb controls. Thumb controls are really, really handy at that, because it becomes second nature once you figure out the operation of these things. Trying to touch a small screen on a motorcycle while you're moving with one finger and it's not 100% stable because you're riding, you take your eyes off the road for a fraction of a second and something can happen. So don't be that guy, right? Use the thumb controls, use the integrated audio system if you have it. If you don't, again, make sure your ride list is prepared, your song list is prepared rather before. As you guys start, hit play. Don't fidget around. Wait till you stop. That's a big, big, big deal. A lot of guys get pissed off if they're riding behind you because we call it like the slinky effect. You're keeping up with the group and all of a sudden you take your eyes off and you're hunting for a song and you slow down. That means everybody behind you's got to slow down. And then, you got the next song. You speed up. That song's over. 3 minutes later, you're slowing down again. Again, don't do that. You're going to piss everybody off. We're at the point where they don't want to ride with you. Everybody rides in staggered formation. I'm not going to get crazy into this for the simple fact that we all know. The bike, you should be 2.5 seconds behind the guy directly in front of you. The guy directly in front of you. 2.5 seconds. You're going to look at a mile marker or the dotted lines or the yellow line, anything in the roadway that you can use as a marker, and then you're going to count 1,000, 1,000, and that's where you should be. You should pass that marker at 1,000, 2.5 seconds. The guy that is on your angle, either to your left or to your right, depending on the tire track you're in, you should be 1.5 seconds behind that person. Reason being is if they need to avoid something quickly in the road, they have room. Right? So don't crowd people. Don't encroach on their space. There's nothing that I can't stand more when I look in my rear view mirror and there's somebody directly behind me, because that's my spot. If I have to swerve or avoid something in the road, it's a problem, right? So again, leave the space, but don't leave too much space. You don't want 3.5, 4 seconds. You just don't want that. Too much space invites cars to get into the middle of the pack. And that always poses problems for motorcyclists for a number of different reasons. A lot of it is we kind of do stupid things when there's cars in the middle of our pack. We don't like it when cars encroach in our group. And rightfully so, but most motorists don't get that. Some of them do if they rode bikes when they were younger, or they're an avid rider currently. They get it. They're not going to do that. But sometimes if your pack is long, like we ride 40, 50 deep, cars are going to cut into our pack to get off exits, especially here in New Jersey. There's no choice. All right, so we tell everybody is if cars trying to get in, slow down, let them get in. Most drivers do not want to be in the middle of a pack of motorcycles. They get very intimidated being there. So they'll only do that. Most of them will only do that if they're trying to either get on the road and get around you, right, coming from an on-ramp, or they're trying to get off an exit. And if people are going to get off an exit and you think you're going to fight them from doing that or prevent them from doing that, you're going to lose that battle. You're on two wheels, you're unprotected, they're in a car, they're going to get over whether you like it or not. So my advice is just let them in, because the sooner they get off the exit, the sooner you can catch up with everybody. Eyes up, pay attention. Look at your mirrors. Know where everybody is ahead of you and behind you, to your left, to your right. It's really, really important. Use the mirrors. Watch out for obstacles. Obstacles are things that, oh man, I hit a pothole one time and had to be a foot deep, and nobody called it out. That leads to the next thing. Know your hand signals. Go review them. There's 100 different websites, 1,000 different websites. I'll pop it up on the screen. Hand signals, left turn, right, staggered formation, single file. I hope that you guys can see that. It's important to know those. Obstacle on the road, you hold your sign or your arm out to your side rather, or your leg out to your side, preferably your legs, because you don't want to take your hands off the handlebars. That's usually not a good thing, especially when somebody's calling out obstacles in the road. And again, here in New Jersey, there's potholes everywhere. So you're going to hit a bad section of the road. You want both hands on the handlebars. The guy up front is the road captain. He's in charge of the ride. He has the route already predefined. He's probably following a navigation. He's checking his mirrors. He's making sure the group is together. He's either using hand signals to communicate with the group, or modern day, everybody's got headsets. We use CBs and Sena communication devices. So everybody that is part of the road captain's ride, I'll say the sweep to make it simple. So you got the road captain and the sweep. Sometimes when we're riding 40 and 50 deep, we need guys in the middle to relay the radio signal back because it's just too far of a distance. So we got radio guys as well. Now, the sweep is going to communicate with the road captain. The sweep is the guy in the back. He's responsible for making sure that nobody gets left behind. And if somebody breaks down, the sweep is going to stop with you. The entire pack does not stop. You proceed to follow the road captain. He's in charge. If you think you know a better way to a route, don't just turn off. Don't do that. Trust me, you'll never live it down. Follow the road captain, whether he's right or wrong. Stay organized, right? That's the big thing. Changing lanes. The road captain rather, is going to radio the sweep. You're all going to follow the road captain, right? he's going to call back to the sweep that he needs the left lane or the right lane. The road captain is going to maintain his line. He shouldn't put his blinker on. Even if he puts his blinker on, you're not going to change lanes before the guy in front of you. We go from front to back. There are groups that go from back to front. We like front to back because you can see the guy ahead of you much easier than you can see the guy behind you, right? And it is the sweep's job to swing out before anybody moves and take that lane for you. So if the road captain calls back and says, I need the left lane, the sweep automatically is going to pull into the left lane as soon as he's got time. We're going to clear the lane, and it could take a couple of seconds. It could take a minute before all of that road, that section of road that we all need to move over is clear. You wait, right? Don't follow the sweep in the back. You follow the guy in front of you. The sweep is going to radio the road captain that the lane is clear. It's all set. Then the road captain is going to put his blinker on, and you're all going to basically, in orderly fashion, move to the left lane or the right lane, depending on what lane you need, right? Follow the guy in front of you. Don't be the guy that takes the lane in the middle of the pack, right? You're not helping. You're causing chaos because then another guy behind you is going to do that and so on. And the people in front of you haven't moved over yet. And it's just, you want to be as organized as possible, right? Don't take it upon yourself to help. Right? If you are chosen to be a radio man or one of the guys in the middle passing signals and things back and helping take a lane, maybe there's 100 bikes, then those guys can move over. But that's all determined by the road captain and how he wants to manage his ride. So don't take it upon yourself to make decisions because when you're riding with a group, being predictable saves lives. You want to be predictable, right? That's why you don't want to fidget with the radio and do silly things and keep your eyes off the road. Maybe you're, I don't know, I'm out of examples. The big thing is playing with a radio. You want to be predictable. The guys behind you will appreciate it. The guy next to you will be appreciative that you're predictable. Hold your line. I see way too many guys going like this, zigzagging. They're maybe in the left lane, but they're not keeping a line. Hold your line. Hold a straight line. And if you're not up to being able to do that with your riding abilities, then you probably shouldn't be in a group, right? Make sure that your skills are up. You don't have to be the perfect rider. Nobody expects you to be the perfect rider. But what they do expect is that you maintain your line, right? If you're in the left lane, hold your line. You're, I don't know, 10 to a foot and a half off the yellow line, the double yellows, stay there. Don't go 1.5 feet, 2 feet, 2.5 feet, then a foot. Don't zigzag back and forth. Unless, of course, you have to avoid an obstacle. Be predictable. Understand where everybody is around you, again, and understand that people need to know where you are, and they need to know that you're going to stay where you are unless if something, drastic happens. People do expect something drastic to happen, but obviously that's last resort, right? You don't want to zigzag away from something. Without notifying people. So if you see something in the road that you have to zigzag around, hand signals, kick your leg out, let everybody know that it's there, help somebody out. It helps. Making turns, left turns, right turns. When the pack turns left or right at a light or stop sign, I can't stress this enough. Make sure the guy in front of you actually went. It's really important to look up before you give it the throttle. Make sure the guy in front of you, because you're looking left or right, depending on what direction you're turning, make sure the guy ahead of you actually left. Sometimes they don't, right? And you're going to end up rear-ending them. I think, 40% of motorcycle accidents are the motorcyclist running into something in front of him, specifically making turns and things like that. So we're the cause of our own problems almost 50% of the time. So do yourself a favor, check to make sure the guy went. Don't get pack mentality. It is extremely dangerous. And let me explain what that means. That's my term. I don't know anybody else that uses it, but I don't know a better way to explain it. Don't think because the guy in front of you just left and he made that turn, that you immediately need to follow him. Ride your ride. Understand that you're responsible for your own safety. Know that the lane is clear. Don't try and beat out a car that's 5 seconds, coming 60 miles an hour and it's 5 seconds away. Don't try and beat that car out. Wait for him to pass. You'll catch up with everybody. Trust me, it's not a big deal. I've seen it. I've seen guys, I mean, literally almost get killed because they had that mentality where they had to keep up with the pack. I have to go, I have to go, I have to go. And everybody kind of gets in that zone, and you're not paying attention how fast the cars are coming, and you pull out when you probably shouldn't have pulled out, and yeah, it can go bad really fast. So make sure the guy in front of you left, and make sure there's no cars coming, right? That's up to you. The guy in front of you is concerned about himself. You need to be concerned about yourself as well. Don't worry about the guys behind you because they're in charge of their own ride, right? Filling gaps. So what does that mean? Every once in a while, you're going to lose a guy. Maybe have blockers. Now, the concept of a blocker is somebody's going to pull out of the pack. Usually he's up front, and he's going to hold an intersection. Meaning he's going to pull into the middle of the intersection and he's going to stand there on his bike, hoping that cars stop. Most cars do stop. It's a risky move, and the hog chapters, we're not allowed to do that. But a lot of bikers, a lot of groups and clubs do that. They'll hold the intersection so everybody can get through safely. It really depends on the group you're with, so double check. The gaps are when that person pulls out, for whatever reason, you're going to have a space in front of you. How do we take that space? How do we fill that gap, right? Because everybody's got to move up. There's two different ways to do this. There's zigzagging, right? So if there's a gap to my right, I'm in a left line, and there's a gap, empty space on my right, some clubs will switch lanes. They'll zigzag into position. I don't personally like that. There's no definitive way to do this, so check before the ride, check with the road captain on how the group of guys you're with handle that. We prefer to go straight up. The reason being is and this usually happens, right? The blockers are usually up front. They'll pull out, hold the intersection. Now you got an empty space there, and the entire pack, if you're running 40 and 50 deep, all you see is this, up and down the road. And I sweep a lot. I'm always in the back, and it is a nightmare. I get nervous every time I see it because everybody's zigzagging. The entire pack has to move. We do straight up, meaning that if there's a gap directly in front of you, tap your horn, pull out just a little bit, give the guy next to you space, make sure the road is clear. Don't take that lane, don't pull up straight. You're gonna go straight up and take that spot, but you're gonna have to pass the bike next to you. That's the bad part. You're going to wait till he either flags you up, or you're going to toot your horn and let him know you're coming up, and you probably should swing out about the yellow line maybe and give him some space, the guy next to you, just in case he's got to move. And that's why I say make sure you check the road, check the conditions before you start moving up. The benefit of this is that only half the pack has to move, and there's no erratic behavior. You're just pulling straight up. A lot of guys prefer zigzagging. Again, we go straight up. We believe that's safer. There's no definitive way. I talked to 3 or 4 different master instructors, a couple of them on YouTube. I emailed them, and there's no definitive way. So it's whatever the group of guys that you're with prefer, that's what you should be doing, right? If you have to leave the pack in the middle of a ride, my recommendation is don't do it from the middle of the pack. If you know that you got to cut out early, you're just going for the ride, and you know that you can get 100 miles in, and then you got to turn around and go home. Maybe you got a family function, whatever it is, you need to split. Stay in the back, because people will follow you. Yes, it happens. It does. If you pull out of the pack, somebody's going to follow you, potentially. So it could turn into a problem for you, because you're going to be known as the guy that basically pulled out of the middle of the pack and 10 guys followed you because they thought you knew where you were going, or you were going somewhere different. I've seen it happen, okay? That's why I say stay in the back. If you're going to leave the pack, don't go left. Never pull out on the left. And I say that because it's dangerous, especially if you're in big groups and you have blockers. Blockers are flying up the side. Now, what a blocker does is he takes that intersection, as I said before, And then what happens? After the intersection is taken, the blocker's now all the way in the back of the pack. What does he have to do? He's got to prepare for the next intersection. And usually there's more than one blocker. There's usually 5 or 6, especially if you have a big group, there's probably more. So these guys are racing up in the opposing lane, going 80 miles an hour to get back to the front of the pack so they could take the next intersection. If you pull out on your left because you want to stop and get a drink and you're ready to leave the ride, and you have a road captain or a blocker coming up at 80 miles an hour, that's not a good scene. Our group has personal experience with this. Don't ever leave the pack on the left. If you know you're going to cut out, make sure you're on the right-hand side and you pull away from the pack on the right-hand side, right? Don't just pull over on the side of the road unless you got an issue. Wait for the proper moment, right? And let the sweep know, let the road captain know you're leaving early. It's important to do that. This way, and let the rest of the group know too. Nobody's going to care. It's just, they want to know what's happening to you. You may pull over. They think you're broken down. And they may want to stop with you, which brings me to the next point. I'll reiterate. If somebody's broken down, don't stop. That's the sweep's job. He's going to stop. If there's an accident, again, I've had personal experience with this stuff. If you're going to pull over to help with that accident, make sure you are safe, right? It's important because you're focused on your buddies, you're focused on a bike down, whatever, and you're standing in the fast lane on a highway and the cars are coming at 70 miles an hour. Somebody's going to get killed. Make sure you're in a safe spot before you pull over. And if it's a half a mile up the road and you got to walk back to where the accident is, do yourself a favor. Don't become a casualty as well. Make sure it's safe to pull off the road and it's safe for you to park your bike and you got room to walk up the shoulder and go see what's going on. That's why we always recommend in our group, that's the sweep's job. The sweep's going to radio, bike down, or somebody's got a problem and the road captain's going to acknowledge that and he's going to continue going. That's the sweep's job, is to stop and make sure this guy is okay. Okay? So that it could be a big problem. And the reason I'm chuckling a little bit is we've had issues like that, and it gets chaotic. It does. And, we had one incident where one of the guys hit his kill switch on the highway by accident. And he went to start his bike, and he put it in first gear and popped the clutch. Of course, that slams on your brakes. And 20 guys behind him all slammed on the brakes, and it was a cluster. I'll say it was a massive problem in the middle of the fast lane on the highway in the Garden State Parkway. Right on a Raritan Bridge that goes up and over. We were right at the bottom, the top part of the downside, and cars couldn't see you until they get to the top. And, you got guys running in the up the highway in that fast lane. That's a problem. Somebody's going to die, right? So understand that these things happen. Being mentally prepared for stuff like this is the key. If you know stuff like this can happen, you're watching a video like this. Look, I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to sit here and profess that I do. But we've had plenty of experience riding with large groups. Again, we run 40, 50 deep every weekend. Every weekend. Sometimes we've run into these problems in the past, so I'm going to relay that information to you in the hopes that, we make your riding a little bit better. New riders to the group. If you're new, you probably want to be directly in front. Let the road captain know. Don't be embarrassed. We all started from nowhere. Really. I remember the first time I popped a clutch and ran into a tree. Granted, I was 16. I didn't even know what a clutch was. But that's a story for another day. The point is that don't be embarrassed. In the motorcycle community, people are more than happy to help you, give you tips, right? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Let everybody know, hey, it's my first time riding with you guys. Do you mind if I stay up front? And I always recommend the front because the road captain, he knows you're new. He may slow down the pace a little bit. He's got you in his mirror. You're going to dictate that pace, right? And again, that's part of being new to riding. You're going to dictate the pace for the road captain. The road captain's not going to go too fast if you're falling behind and you're not comfortable riding at a certain speed. you'll slow it up a little bit, right? Or you can go in the back. We do both. It depends on, we give the rider a preference. The guy in the back usually feels a little bit more comfortable because the whole pack isn't focused on him. And the sweep can relay to the road captain up front via CB or what have you that, we're falling behind a little bit. You got to slow up the pace, right? That's the sweep's job is, they're always in constant communication with radios. So understand that there's communication going on, right? That's a lot of guys don't realize that, but there's communication, right? We tell everybody, get a CB if you want to listen to what we're doing, get a better idea of what happens during a ride. Get a CB and listen. We use the CB still, because the last thing I want to do is listen to somebody breathe in a Sena headset for 2 hours, 3 hours while I'm riding. Trikes should be in the back, and a lot of guys on trikes get mad at that. And take no offense, guys. You can't kick your leg out far enough for the guy behind you to see that there's an obstacle in the road. You also take up a lot of the road, a big chunk of the road. You reduce visibility for the rest of the bikes behind you. Staggered formation is also so you can see up the middle of the road, right? You get good visibility. If everybody's staggered, you have really good visibility up the middle of the road. You could see guys calling out obstacles in the road 5 and 6 bikes up, easy. So you could be prepared in advance, right? You don't have to wait for the guy in front of you to kick his leg out. You already know what's coming if you're paying attention, because 5, 6, 10 bikes up, they're already doing that. With the trike in the middle of the pack, everybody behind the trike, they don't see that. They don't have that benefit. So it ends up being a problem for anybody behind the trike. So the trikes should be in the back. It's pretty important. Narrowing lanes, meaning you got 2 lanes that are merging into one. What we do is the radio men, now this is some of the only times that they leave the pack, is they'll hold that second lane. Right, so we'll pull into the left lane, the right lane is ending. Radio guys will stay in the right lane, and even the sweep will stay in the right lane. He'll hold that lane so no cars start stacking up, because we have to merge, right? The cars have to merge. They're going to merge into the middle of the pack. So we hold that lane. We hold both lanes in that case. Let's talk about the slinky effect now, or some guys call it the accordion effect. What that is a large amount of space between bikes, and it happens when you're in large groups, even small groups, but it's not as pervasive. Once you start getting to 40 and 50 bikes and above, we've had rides where we've had 500 during Christmas run into New York City, 700 on Veterans Day a few years ago when it was on a Sunday. We're not even on the highway, and there's guys that are already going 60 miles an hour, and we're going through a toll booth going 10. So there's going to be distance, right? And the problem is you want to catch up. So you gun it. 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever. And then you slam on your brakes. Or worse, you forget that the guys in front are only going 45 miles an hour because of the large group, and maybe it's a police escort ride. And the police are basically saying, 45 tops. You don't really want to go too fast in a big group like that because of the slinky effect. And what that really means is now you have this huge distance. During our Veterans Day run this year, wow, there probably was 1/8 of a mile between us, because the pack was only going 40, 45 miles an hour on the highway. But because it took so long for everybody to get through the toll booth, the bikes up front were already going 55, 60, 45, 50, whatever it was. There's so much distance in between us all. So everybody's racing to get up front. And some guys forget that the lead bikes are only going 45. So what I always say to everybody is understand the speed of these bikes. They're not going 90, 100 miles an hour, right? The premise isn't to leave you behind. So get that out of your head. Nobody's going to leave you behind. They're just on the highway going faster, and that's why it feels that way. And getting back to the main point is that all of a sudden you're going to catch up to these bikes. You're going 90, they're going 45, 55, and you got to slam on the brakes. And there's people behind you that maybe they don't see your brake lights until the last second. Now they're slamming on their brakes, right? And so on. And it goes all the way down the line. So what I tell everybody is there's distance, close the gap slowly. Don't go 100 miles an hour to close the gap. Go 60, 75, 80, whatever. Use your judgment. Close the gap. Understand that the bikes in front are going a certain speed and you're going to have to slow down. Don't wait for the last second to jam on your brakes. Slow down gradually, right? Flash your brakes. Let the guys behind you see your brakes lights flashing so they know to start stopping as well. That could lead into problems. I had a guy behind me on a trike that slammed on his brakes. He was sideways. He was maybe 2 inches off my back tire because he wasn't paying attention. And so there's problems like that happen. Be prepared. And better yet, understand how close that guy is behind you, right? The last thing is drinking and riding. I won't ever drink when I ride. That's just my personal choice. It's too easy to have a good time. You have one beer, turns into 2, turns into 3, turns into 6. And then you're going to hop on your bike and your reflexes and your senses are dulled and bad things can happen. So on our rides, if you decide you're going to have a drink at lunch, you're not riding with the pack on the way back. It's fine. Nobody cares. You do what you want to do. But you're not allowed to ride with the pack on the way back, right? Your ride ends as soon as you take a sip of beer or you have a drink. And that's basically what we tell everybody. More than welcome to stay back behind with a group of guys. If you guys want to stay there for a couple hours and have your beers, whatever you do, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Our rules are if you have a drink, you're not riding with the pack back. You can ride with your own, with your group back. If everybody's in agreement, that's not a big deal. But be mindful. You're riding with other guys, and if you have one too many, it could end up being a bad scene. Well, that's the basics of riding in a group. If you're new to the group riding scene, don't be afraid. Don't be nervous. Right? This video's got some of the base information that you need to be a little bit more comfortable, to know what to expect. I think that's a big thing. I was a former head road captain for my hog chapter, over 200 members. And I would talk to a lot of the members that first join, and they're a little intimidated about it. They've never ridden in a big group, and they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to look like a fool, right? We get that. Don't be afraid to let everybody know. In fact, be vocal about it. I'm new. My name's Dan. Nice to meet you. Just put your best foot forward and have some fun. Let everybody know. Look, people will be more than happy to take you under their wing and to teach you the ins and outs. If you have questions, ask. Don't be embarrassed. Again, we all started from nowhere. So have fun. Be safe. And as Blockhead says, be vigilant.